Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. A father fighting for his 3-year-old son, whose mother is trying to raise as non-binary. He is one of many parents speaking out on California's battle between parental rights and state laws. Narcan now available without a prescription in pharmacies nationwide. The drug is used to help reverse opioid overdoses, especially from fentanyl. Parents and lawmakers continue to push for harsher punishments for fentanyl dealers. They have introduced a new initiative to vote on it. A 3-year-old being raised as non-binary? One father fights for his son, who he says was dressed in girl clothing. The Bay Area father shares his story with NTD's David Lam and why he's been speaking at the Capitol and with parents.
Harrison Tinsley, a single father at age 31, has always wanted to be a dad, but is now fighting for his son. He is one of many parents voicing their concerns about the issue of parental rights versus state control.
And at this point, I've been going to the Capitol and just doing everything I can to fight for kids and protecting them.
2 bills in the legislature could change child custody and visitation rights based on a parent's affirmation of a child's gender identity or gender expression. Tinsley shares with NTD his thoughts on parental rights and different gender ideology.
I see that they keep putting it in schools and everything. I don't think it's appropriate for kids, especially at such young ages. California is even going as far as trying to pass legislation to you have to affirm a kid's fake gender identity or you could potentially lose custody. I think that's really dangerous. I think it has no place in kids' ideas in schools. They should be learning normal history and math and English and not about gender ideology.
He speaks from experience. According to Tinsley, his son's mother was trying to raise their 3-year-old son Sawyer as non-binary and in girl clothing. And due to differing political viewpoints, Tinsley said he was kept away from seeing his son until he was 15 months old. He's trying to gain full custody of his child.
You have to feed your kids or you lose them, you go to jail. You can't beat your kids, you lose them, you go to jail. You have to shelter them, everything. So we already all agree upon there is some standards we have to follow to protect children. And I do think that protecting them from this should be included in that.
Tinsley disagrees with letting children decide their gender.
I think there's only boys and girls. And my son Sawyer adamantly says he's a boy if you ask him. He loves being a boy, he wants to be a boy, he'll tell you he's a boy. If you say anything contrary or give him a girly toy, he'll yell and scream at you, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy.
And the values he thinks makes a good parent.
You have to lead by example. You have to know when to push them to be brave. You have to know when they just need to have someone to listen to them or to love them when they're sad.
He's been sharing his story with the public and media to let people know.
I think that everybody at home, you need to speak up. You need to tell the truth. You have to have the courage to say what you actually believe. If we all just do that, we can end these things that are harming children. We can have the world we want. We can create the future we want for our children.
Tinsley moved from Tahoe to Los Gatos in order to be closer to his son, saying he won't stop fighting for Sawyer. In Santa Clara, California, David Lam, NTD News.
A chilling shopping ordeal unfolded when a Target store's clothing section mysteriously caught fire. NTD's Christina Corona has more from Buena Park.
We're here in Buena Park where a suspicious fire erupted inside of this Target store behind me yesterday evening, forcing shoppers and employees to evacuate. Officials from the Orange County Fire Authority reported that the incident occurred at approximately 7:15 p.m. at the store located on Orangethorpe and Western Avenues. Footage posted on the Citizens app shows the flames reaching the ceiling after burning through the children's clothing section of the store. The store's sprinkler system effectively contained the flames, while an employee helped put out the blaze with a fire extinguisher. The store was reportedly busy at the time of the fire and left customers wondering what was going on, while one customer thought it was a Halloween prop. Arson investigators are calling this incident suspicious and are still working to determine the cause. No injuries were reported in the incident, and it is still unclear when the store will reopen. Anyone with information that could help in this investigation is encouraged to call the Buena Park Police Department. Christina Corona, NTD News, Buena Park.
Narcan now available over the counter. Emergent Biosolutions announced that the drug used to reverse opioid overdoses will be stocked at pharmacies nationwide that can dispense it without a prescription. NTD's Jason Blair has more on this announcement and the drug's impact on reducing deaths, especially from fentanyl overdoses.
This week, opioid overdose reversal drug Naloxone, also known as Narcan, started to become available over the counter nationwide. The drug's maker, Emergent Biosolutions, said in a press release, quote, "Narcan nasal spray will be the first life-saving emergency medicine for opioid overdose available on shelves beginning this September. The suggested retail price for 2 doses will be $44.99.
It's a miracle drug to bring people back from death.
Bruce Copley told NTD that Narcan has been efficient in helping reduce overdose deaths during the current opioid epidemic in which fentanyl is the main culprit.
You administer it in the nostril. Typically, one application will bring the person back within 10 minutes. It may take 2. All EMTs have it. All police departments have it.
Copley says that it's okay to use Narcan even if an opioid overdose isn't confirmed, since the drug only reacts to opioids and will not hurt the person.
So if they're looking blue, you want to administer Narcan pretty quickly.
San Francisco resident J.J. Smith lives in the city's Tenderloin neighborhood, which is a hotspot for fentanyl use and overdoses. He often walks around the area to help struggling people seek addiction treatment and recovery. He told NTD on social media that lately he's been using Narcan on people around 3 times a week. Earlier last month, he saw this woman drop to the ground in front of him. He realized she was overdosing and administered Narcan to revive her before paramedics arrived. The California Department of Public Health says signs of an opioid overdose can include small pupils, losing consciousness, weak or no breathing, choking sounds, limp body, cold and/or discolored skin. Reporting from California, Jason Blair, NTD News.
Parents and lawmakers want to punish fentanyl dealers, so they took it to the state capitol. Currently, there is no law in California that punishes those who distribute the illicit drug.
Outside the Attorney General's office on Tuesday, photos of the deceased due to fentanyl lined the sidewalk. A group of parents and lawmakers announced they have filed a statewide initiative to stop fentanyl dealers. They are proposing a law called Alexandra's Law, named after 20-year-old Alexandra Capoletto from Temecula, who died of fentanyl poisoning in 2019.
Alex was killed when, unbeknownst to her, she was handed a counterfeit oxycodone pill made with a lethal dose of fentanyl. She was dead within minutes of ingesting just half of that pill before going to bed 2 days before Christmas in 2019.
Alexandra's Law had been filed previously twice by a Republican and a Democrat, but was blocked both times. Now they are trying to get lawmakers to vote on ACA 12, which would allow voters to decide whether Alexandra's Law should go into effect.
That said, it provides a warning to drug dealers. It provides them an opportunity to change their behavior and stop what they are doing. And it advises them of the consequences of what could occur if they don't. And fortunately, it will advise them of what is happening through many and ever-growing counties across the state as we prosecute more dealers for murder.
The second component of the initiative would also give prosecutors more resources, like a sentencing enhancement if someone is convicted of selling narcotics with fentanyl that leads to the death of another.
We did a poll, and 88% of California voters said that they would vote for a ballot measure like the one we're about to file today. And I don't blame them. The new statistics show that 117 lives in California are lost each week to fentanyl, and the numbers keep going up.
There are currently no laws in California to hold a drug dealer accountable for that person's death. As Californians, we have allowed this to go on too long. We punish drunk drivers when they kill. but not drug dealers. Why not? One kills with a car, the other with a drug. Both act with reckless disregard for human life.
Other parents shared their stories after painfully losing their child.
December of 2020, Zach was with friends at our local mall and purchased what he was told was a legitimate and harmless Percocet pill from a stranger who recently was placed on probation. Instead, Zach was sold a fake pill made of a more powerful product, illicit fentanyl. I found my youngest child in his bedroom appearing to be asleep, but not breathing, only 2 days after Christmas.
Choosing to do nothing is, in fact, doing something. At present, I believe we are enabling these perpetrators, these drug dealers, to prey upon the young and vulnerable without facing any consequence. The methods used to distribute illicit fentanyl are despicable and dishonest.
They hope lawmakers will do more to punish fentanyl dealers so other parents would not have to grieve over losing their child to the drug.
We'll now take a short break, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come right back. Death Valley remains closed after Tropical Storm Hilary brought pouring rain. Officials say it could take months to reopen. Heavy rain also closed down the annual Burning Man Festival, leaving many stranded. One attendee shares her story on how she found kindness amidst the chaos. Shootings, marijuana, and cocaine present near a youth football practice in Oakland. The team has had enough and relocated to another part of the town for safety. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, David Zhang. Governor Gavin Newsom wants to amend the U.S. Constitution. His proposal for adding gun control has moved forward, but some critics have called the effort a publicity stunt.
The California Senate's Public Safety Committee voted on August 29th to proceed with Governor Gavin Newsom's proposal. He wants to call for a constitutional convention to add gun control measures to the U.S. Constitution. In June, the governor proposed the amendment that would add universal background checks, raise the firearm purchase age from 18 to 21, and institute a firearm purchase waiting period to the Second Amendment. He also wants to prohibit civilians from buying assault weapons, which he says, quote, serve no other purpose than to kill as many people as possible in a short amount of time. Weapons of war our nation's founders never foresaw. Many have speculated that Newsom may be launching a bid for president in 2024, and that the gun control proposal is a publicity stunt that will unlikely receive traction outside of the state. As for the measure, it now heads to the Senate floor for a vote, then over to the Assembly.
After Tropical Storm Hilary poured rain in Southern California last month, Death Valley has been closed due to unsafe roads. Officials say it could be months before they will be repaired and safe for visitors again.
Officials said it's unclear when Death Valley National Park will reopen to visitors after heavy rains from Tropical Storm Hilary formed ditches and crumbled roadways at one of the hottest places in the world. It could be months before the park reopens and has been closed since the storm. Hilary dumped 2.2 inches of rain on August 20th, roughly the amount of rainfall the park usually receives in a year. This year's rainfall broke its previous record of 1.7 inches in one day, set in August of last year. Matthew Lamar, a park ranger, told the Los Angeles Times that although 2 inches of rain doesn't sound like much, at the park it can have a dramatic impact. Lamar said about 900 of the park's nearly 1,400 miles of roads have been assessed. Repair costs are estimated at $6 million, but only for one of the park's main roads, State Route 190, and a small part of State Route 136. Some sites survived the storm, including Scotty's Castle, a popular visitor destination.
Burning Man Festival attendees faced heavy rain and flooding while stranded in the Nevada desert. NTD's Stephanie Sicald heard from one attendee who found kindness amidst the chaos.
Heavy rain and flooding at the Burning Man Festival in Nevada stranded thousands of attendees, causing a massive traffic jam and confrontations during the exit. The traditional finale was also postponed due to the longest and heaviest rainfall in the event's history. Tatiana Shmonova, a woman from California, shared her story. She attended her first festival along with her husband, which started off well with incredible days of art, dancing, and great atmosphere. However, the weather worsened on Thursday with rain and cold temperatures. Despite challenges, they ventured out with garbage bags tied to their shoes to prevent mud from sticking too much. On Saturday morning, they learned the rain was expected until Sunday, and all entertainment, including the burning of the man, was canceled. They were advised not to leave the parking spot until 2 days after the rain stopped. Fearing being stuck in the desert for several days and having to catch a flight back to their 2 children, they took action. 2 people from their RV, along with their 2 husbands, walked to the highway for 2.5 hours in order to catch a bus that took them to Gearlash. They then faced a challenging situation where locals demanded a high fee for a ride to Reno. Shmonova said, quote, "A local guy offered to drive us to Reno for $500 per person and a minimum of 4 people, so a total of $2,000. They didn't agree to do it for $400 per person. It was absolutely terrible." Fortunately, a kind woman from the festival offered them a ride, and the group made it to their flight safely, returning home by 10 p.m. on Saturday. Shmonova thanked the woman for her kindness and proving that there are good people out there. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News, Los Angeles.
Farmers never seem to catch a break, from too little water to too much water and endless regulations from lawmakers. The state's agricultural industry continues to face pressure, so some farmers are now taking matters into their own hands.
Even with a wet winter last year, water remains a problem for many farmers in the state. Sohan Samra, a farmer from the Central Valley, told California Insider's CMAC Karami that some farmers like himself are building their own rainwater capture systems.
I mean, coming out of 3 years of drought, every drop of water is very valuable, and it excites us, you know what I mean? We're excited to see it, yeah.
So
excited to see it and sad to see it's going to waste, you know.
Sad to see it going to waste.
Just waste. So we want to take advantage of the situation. It's an investment for the future. And anytime there's flood water flowing in the future, we are right there. We can start grabbing that water as soon as possible.
Some of the water that's captured is then returned to the ground to replenish natural groundwater systems. But Samran says retrieving groundwater is in itself another issue.
What I was shocked by a little bit is that you guys are going to put this water into the ground, and then you probably have to pay for it when you take it out, right?
Yeah, you know what? That's a very interesting question. Nobody knows yet. Our county government does not have a policy made up yet. As of right now, our Madera County is, if you go over 28 inches of water, you pump more than 28 inches of water, yes, you'd have to pay penalty to pump any water additional to that.
Samran says part of the problem with groundwater pumping rights lies with California's Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA. Passed in 2015 by the state government, it states that by 2040, groundwater-dependent regions are required to stop over-pumping. It also asks these regions to bring basins into balanced levels of pumping and recharge.
Too much rain affects us, not enough rain affects us. We get affected a lot, many different ways.
Samran adds that farmers have also been hit by economic impacts and congestion at the ports with import and export delays. This is on top of laws and water rights policies.
The cost of doing business just it increases and increases just little by little bit every year. So what it does is it pushes the small family farmers out of business because they don't have a staff to deal with complying with these new regulations.
While farmers can build their own water capture systems, he says they still rely on state and federal governments for certain resources and to ease regulations. He hopes that lawmakers and local officials can support farmers in creating solutions for, quote, long-term viability.
To watch the full program, find California Insider on YouTube or Epic TV on the Epic Times website. A youth football team forced to relocate due to gunshots during practice. The coach and players just wanted a safe environment for kids to learn football and cheer. NTV's David Lamb hears more from the team.
The East Bay Panthers youth football team changed their practice site from Verde's Carter Park to Madison Park Academy in Oakland this week. They said gunshots and violence made it unsafe and difficult for practice. The coaches trying hard to keep the practice safe.
I do it for the kids, love of the kids, make them a better citizen, make them a better student, also make them better young men so they won't also have to deal with gun violence.
Leroy Jones is a coach and athletic director for the team.
2 weeks ago, there was a mass shooting. About 10 people were shooting at each other. Some was on bikes and some was just in the park shooting back and forth. The kids had to run to the other side of the park to get down so they wouldn't get hit.
The football training is for kids aged 10 to 14 years old, and 13-year-old Carter Provost recollects one of the shootings.
You know, it's terrible just seeing like the violence, especially around like kids like myself and my teammates, because like stuff like that, it can be traumatizing, especially for us because we're so young.
Coach Jones said police did not show up and feels that the city is not helping. Provost's father wants immediate change and for leaders to put aside politics, as well as keeping the park safe and clean.
The city needs to come out and set a tone from the highest levels of leadership. And there's also got to be that sense that there is some type of order, you know, because it's almost like there's an era of just things being not civilized and just total chaos. So we got to kind of return to some form of normalcy. Right about after COVID or coming out of COVID, it just seems like things have just gotten progressively worse.
First day of practice at the new park, how does it feel?
It's better, but there's still some more work on the field. Like the grass is a little bit rough, but everything else is good, like the safety and stuff.
Provost says he still comes to practice each day for the love of the game and for the grind.
The next step for us is to make anywhere we go safe for the kids and safe for Oakland, period. Also to make sure these kids learn the game of football and have fun doing it.
In Oakland, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with the friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Ganjin World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.